And there we are. Welcome, everybody, to Monday night's Carnivore Talk. Uh-oh. I think Jeff disappeared. He'll be back. So, welcome to Carnivore Talk. And tonight we're going to talk about the obsession that some people have with ketones. There he is. Bring him back up on the screen.
Accidentally hit a button I shouldn't have hit.
That's okay. So, anyway, to get the groundwork started, how many of you have ever stared at a ketone meter and felt a little disappointed or maybe a bit anxious or thought the number wasn't high enough? Maybe you've cut fat, maybe you've added fat, maybe you've added MCT oil, you've fasted longer, you skipped a meal, and you're trying to do anything you can to push that reading higher. And for a while, it felt like the whole point of this eating way was to stay in deep ketosis every minute of every day. But what if that chase is actually missing the point? What if the benefits that many of us experience on carnivore or a low-carb carnivore-centric diet, such as energy, appetite control, clearer thinking, better lab work, all those things don't require living in high ketosis all the time? And so what if chasing those numbers is adding more stress than progress? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go and separate the real value for ketones from the obsession of them. And then we're going to talk about when measuring them might be useful, when it becomes a distraction, and then why a lot of people stop chasing the meter and end up feeling better and getting better results when they put it down and don't worry about it. So if you felt like you were ever failing at this way of eating because your ketones weren't high enough, stick with us throughout the evening. You might be a lot closer to success than you think. And so that'll be the theme for tonight is chasing ketones. Is it really worth it? Does it really matter? And we look forward to your comments, of course, in the chat. If you're on YouTube, that's where the majority of the chat takes place. If you're on Facebook, we see your comments there also. They can you can leave a comment on Facebook, and I'll probably be able to see it and bring it up on the screen. And then, of course, better than bringing the comments up on the screen is bringing you up on screen. And so remember, on Monday nights, this is an open forum. It's an open chat. And so any of you that has a device with a camera on it, which is probably all of you today, are welcome to click the link that's pinned in the chat and join us here on screen. And if you are over on some of these other, I'm multi-streaming to X and Facebook, I'm going to go ahead and send that link over to you right now. There it is. So you can click on that StreamYard link and you can join Jeff and I on screen. All right. So Jeff, how are things going on in Texas?
Oh, they're going good. We're in our typical annual heat wave, so it's getting 106, 107, 108. I think right now it's about 104. I think it's 102 in the shop. So it's a little warm. It's not too bad though. I'm a little tired this evening. I didn't get in till almost 5 o'clock this morning. Me and my son went catfishing all night. It's a lot more comfortable out on the lake fishing at night around here than it is during the day.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't get in till I didn't get into about 4:30, 5 o'clock. So then got about 4 hours sleep before it's time to get some work done around here. So if I seem like I'm dragging, I got a good excuse.
That's okay. That's all right. It's interesting you say it's the hottest time of the year down there because up here in Ohio, things are starting to change for the worse. So I think today's high was maybe in the mid 60s overnight, might be in the 50s. It was actually, I didn't go to work with a jacket today, but I could have used a jacket because it was chilly. And It's the beginning of the end. So, I always say that, by the second week of August, we can't get into the pool anymore because even though the days are in the 80s, the nights are cold and it brings the water temperature down. And yeah, we haven't been in the pool in 2 weeks. And at this point, after today, I can tell that we're not getting in the pool again. So it's time to order the closing kit and throw the cover on it and prepare for winter. It's
Man,
sad.
that's a short pool season you got there.
It is. We opened it up the third week of June.
Wow.
And yeah, we opened it up the third week of June, and then close it. And we always close it the second week of August. So we have someone in the waiting room. Carnivore, just wave if you could. All right. Okay. That's my way of confirming that you're a real human. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good. All right. So you're a new face. Welcome to Carnivore Talk. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a teacher of 16 years, and sitting sedentary and not eating well has caused me some weight gain. So I am now working on remedying that, getting more exercise, and have left the classroom and changed my diet to basically carnivore.
All right. Very nice. Change your job and change your diet,
Yes.
right? Okay. All right. Very nice. When did you get started on carnivore?
I actually just started a couple weeks. I've been mostly keto and eating some vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I was not getting enough fats. So I have a friend, Brian Airy, and his wife is my friend, and he is now a carnivore coach, and he kind of told her about it, and then she told me about it, and so that was the journey for me.
All right. Yeah. The Brian Airy's name sounds familiar. We see him here often on Monday nights in the chat. And yeah, you mentioned not getting enough fat. That's very common because, I'm 50, and for the majority of my life, I was programmed with the messaging that fat was bad
Yes.
and to eat lean. So I naturally wanted to cut off the fat, wanted to use as little butter as possible, and it took me a while to make my mind over and think about it differently. So very good. Awesome. What's your name, by the way? Or pseudonym?
Kim.
Kim? Okay. All right. Well, nice to meet you, Kim. All right. And then this is Jeff. He's down in Texas. I'm in Ohio. And where are you dialing in from? If we may ask, you can be private if you want.
Southwest Missouri.
Southwest Missouri. Oh, okay. All right. We have a friend that pops in from Missouri here in a little bit usually. So Kelly, have you seen Kelly Missouri Carnivore's channel?
I have not yet.
Okay, yeah, he'll probably pop in before too long.
Okay.
All right, very good. So how do you feel about your experience so far on keto and your transition to carnivore?
I was raised where we grew a very large garden, and family all came over and harvested and canned vegetables, and my dad grew grapes and apples, and I have fought with my blood sugar my entire life. And I started noticing it when I was around 14. I was a really chubby kid, but in high school, I basically was doing long-term fasting because, in high school, you don't want to be overweight because you don't fit in. And I realized then that when I would fast, I could lose weight. Still was eating the vegetables and not doing so great with that. And then when I started on the keto diet, I cut down on the vegetables and only eating specific ones because of all the oxalates and all the stuff. And when I fast, I can lose weight doing that, but my blood sugars are still not right. So that was my jump to carnivore, and for the last couple of weeks I can tell a difference. I'm not having those surges, those ups and downs basically with the blood sugar.
Yeah, and that would make sense because you're running on ketones, which is our topic for tonight, instead of glucose. So you don't get a glucose spike and then a crash, ketones tend to be more of a steady stream of energy. So, you have less of this stuff going on. I don't know if you can see that. I got it for my cameras here. Less of that up and downs thing going on there. So, all right, very good. We do support keto here. I'm definitely all for the keto diet, but I've been carnivore 97% of the time since May of 2023. And if you don't mind me taking a moment to share, this morning I got on the scale and I was 164. So when I started my carnivore journey, I was 235. So
Wow.
officially 71 pounds down. And that one in 71 does make a difference. I see you moving, Dan. I'm going to bring you on the screen. I'm going to continue with my story here. And let's see here.
Hey, Bob.
Hi there. So I'm 164, and that 1 pound makes a difference to me, because we were talking the other week that on a BMI chart for a 5'8" male, a BMI of 139, which is ridiculously on the lower end, up to 164 is considered normal, and then 165 was still considered overweight. So I am actually officially, at least for today, tomorrow I could wake back up and I'm 165 or 166 again, but at least for today, for the first time in my life, I am normal according to a BMI chart. So I'm a little excited about that. So
As well, you should be.
yeah. Dan, how are you doing, Dan?
I am on fire. I'm just enjoying life, and just, thank you for taking me on. And Bob, Jeff, what's going on? And Carnivore, welcome to the community.
Thank you.
Isn't this a game changer?
Yes.
It's out of this world. Who would have thought that this would have changed our lives, going against everything they ever taught us? I'm on 23 months, and to your point, Bob, I'm at the lowest I've been since I was probably 13. I'm at 176. I started at 250, and irregardless of what the chart is saying, internally I feel like within my own chart I'm right where I need to be, and it's just it's enlightening. It's amazing, and this community, I mean, it's a knockout of the park. It's so worth it to meet people like Bob and Jeff, and even though I don't come on that often, but just to hear you guys and put it on, we do need that reinforcement every day, because this is a fight, an everyday struggle that many of us have, including me, that I need this. I need to hear Bob. I need to hear Jeff. I need to hear Dr. Kilt. I need it. It's part of my daily routine that I love hearing these success stories and the maintenance. So I'm doing great.
Well, it's part of the community. That's what keeps us all together, what keeps us all strong.
It's true.
All right, very good. I'm going to take a moment and just pop over into the chat real quick and catch up on some of these comments. There's not too many here. So we got Linda Flanagan was first in the gate. She gets the door prize for today. Target Prime Rib is in the house. Thomas, feel free to join us on screen. We would love to have you. Holly Springer, we'd love to have all of you, by the way. It's just Thomas, he's been on multiple times, so I give him a little extra prodding. So Isabella Goyer is here. And we got Linda McDaniel from Michigan, and Sandy Blythe, and Paul Brown. I think that's a new name too. Good to see you, Paul. Thanks for joining us. And Uncle Charlie, he says, well, I went on vacation, brought my own food, 1 meal a day last night, had ice cream cone with sprinkles, had a pound of fudge, came home and lost 5 pounds. Booyah.
Wow.
So are you rewarding is it because you're on vacation? So I'm not going to diss you for like, hey, if you're carnivore if you're carnivore 364 days of the year and you go on vacation and you decided you wanted to have an ice cream and a piece of fudge, I mean, that's your prerogative. If you got the discipline to get right back on track the next day, then have at it. I will.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I do not.
This on my anniversary. When we go out for our wedding anniversary dinner, and they always bring you a dessert, even though you don't order it, because when you made the reservation, you put down your anniversary. So they're like, "Oh, happy anniversary!" And they bring you something. So I'll eat whatever's on my plate on my anniversary. That's one day that I know that I'm going the most off the chart. I go a little off the chart here and there with the occasional, occasionally I cheat with keto. So, but on my anniversary, I might actually have a bite of that fudge. So, however, if I do, I don't lose 5 pounds. I will tell you that. If I eat ice cream and a slice of fudge, there's a good chance I'll be 5 pounds higher tomorrow morning. So my weight oscillates something crazy.
I'm too chicken to even try that.
Marla Kelly and Kimberly Morgan are here. And then pertaining to our topic, Linda McDaniel says, I've been using the Keto Mojo for 21 days. Very helpful to see the data. Also, stress and late eating show the next day. All right. So that's very good. So there's obviously these tools are helpful.
Yeah.
And tracking your ketones can be helpful. We're not saying that it's not helpful by any means. We're just saying sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes people get all worried about the number not being exactly where they are. The general theme of this is, of course, is going to be, if you're doing everything right, eating a carnivore centric diet or a completely carnivore diet, you probably don't really need to be checking anything. So.
The thing is with those numbers is, to start with, a ketone meter measures the ketones that are waiting in the bloodstream. Okay. It doesn't count the ketones that have already started their process and going to work within the body, because it can't measure the ketones that are at work. It can only measure the ketones that are in the bloodstream itself. All right. And the number on your meter doesn't simply tell you how many ketones your liver produced. It tells you how much BHP happens to be in your bloodstream at that moment. Okay. BHP is beta-hydroxybutyrate. So, if the production is greater than the utilization, then the BPH rises. If the utilization is greater than the production, then it falls. So just because you have lower numbers doesn't mean that you're not in ketosis, and it doesn't mean that your ketones aren't working in your body. And that's if you're using a ketone monitor, which is going to be your most accurate, form of measuring it. Like blood meters, they measure your BHP. Urine strips measure your acetosiate. And then the breath meters measure your acetone. Well, all those are measuring, those last two are only measuring what your body is expelling. It's what it couldn't use, and it had too much, so it expelled the rest of it. And this is where people get really messed up when they look at their monitors and they go, "Oh my gosh, the strip isn't the color it should be." Well, forget the strips,
Right.
The breath, it's falling. Forget the breath. Those are not ketones you can count on at all. It doesn't tell you what's going on in your body. Only the ketone monitors mean anything, and even then, it doesn't mean that you're not in ketosis. It doesn't mean that you're not utilizing ketones. It just means that's what hasn't been used yet in your body. So, like for example, a lot of people notice that their ketones can fall during exercise, but their uptake and their oxidation increases. So if you check your ketone levels during exercise and see your ketone levels falling, you might think that your workout kicked you out of ketosis, but in reality, your tissues were actually using the ketones. They were doing their job. So this is why you've got to put chasing ketones into context. Why are you chasing them? What is your purpose for chasing them? You know, you might be better off thinking that you need to decide what the whole story is in your journey in your diet. Okay, because chasing ketones shouldn't be the whole story. If your goal is weight loss, improving insulin sensitivity, better glucose control, lower triglycerides, reduced hunger, or improved metabolic health, and consider instead what's happening to your waist. What's your body composition like? What's your glucose? What's your fasting insulin, your triglycerides, and your HDL? Your blood pressure, your hunger, and your energy. How do you feel? If all these things are moving in the right direction, but your ketones dropped a little bit, which metric seems more important? You know, for me, and I know Bob, we don't chase our ketones. And I know many people have already mentioned on here they don't chase their ketones. And I get that. And I'm right there with them because I'm reading what my body is telling me. My body is telling me that all of this is working. You know, my waist was shrinking. You know, my energy levels were up. This all told me how I felt, and I knew it was what was happening. And to be honest, I don't know how many other people can relate to it, but I kind of know if I'm expelling ketones, like through my urine, and I can smell it. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but I can, yeah, there you go. I can smell it, which tells me I had an overabundance of ketones and my body was expelling the excess, which means I was in full ketosis. I was doing well. That's, to me, the best monitor I've got, you know? So when it comes to your ketone meter, it's just a tool. It's not a metabolic report card. It measures concentration, not production. It doesn't measure your total ketone utilization. It doesn't measure your fat oxidation. It doesn't measure your insulin sensitivity or your fat loss. And it certainly does not measure your journey in carnivore, your worthiness as a member of the keto community. So in the end, does reading your ketone meter really matter that much, except for just a little information of what your body may be doing, but it's just not accurate.
I couldn't agree more, Jeff. I mean, I think you are your best meter. You, like yourself. And it's funny that you brought up, you know, the smell. Because when I went to Europe about 2 weeks ago, you know, Italy and France, I didn't eat the typical diet. You know, they're like, oh yeah, you know, eat this, you know, you're going to lose weight. You know, to me, a carb is a carb. And I would ask my wife, I'm like, I'm just curious, is the food here that you guys are eating and me that it just smells really pungent? Like when I go do number one, he's like, no, I think it's just you. And you nailed it. It was the expulsion of the ketone.
Yep,
my ketone levels skyrocketed, but I didn't need a meter. Like I knew within myself that my mental clarity was at, I mean, if there was a scale of a 10, it was a 50. I'm looking at all of these monuments and all these statues of all history, and I'm taking it all in. And that was my meter. The more clear-minded I was, the higher state of consciousness that I was, and that's the ketones. That's, you know, saying no to certain things, and that was my scale. My scale was that.
Well, and see, when you eliminate glucose, and we all know that our brain needs glucose, but it also needs fats. And of course, we get those fats in the form of ketones. When our brain is running off of those ketones rather than glucose, that's when you see that clarity. That's when you see that light that just opens up in your brain, you know, and it turns on. There's a switch that's flipped, you know, and so that's a great way of reading your body and realizing, hey, I am in ketosis. And, you know, if you're eating this way, you will be pretty much in a continuous state of ketosis. Yeah, you'll be low, you know, when your body's really using it. You'll be high when it's storing it. But you'll be basically in a constant state of ketosis. You have no other choice if you're eating properly. You can drop too low if you're not getting enough fat. You know, so you've got to have that balance in there of fat to protein ratios. But you're right. Focusing on what your body is doing is the most important thing. Read your body, learn what your body is telling you. Yeah, and none of us do it right off the bat. It takes time to learn. You know, we have to experience and go, wow, where did this come from? You know, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
So, just to throw a couple, facts and statistics in there. So, nutritional ketosis is usually defined when your blood BHB is around 0.5 or higher. So, that's not very high. 0.5, you're in nutritional ketosis. So very good. And deep ketosis or optimal ketosis is often marketed as 1.5 to 3, but this range is more relevant for specific therapeutic uses. And then usually, to get this constant deep ketosis, you're going to have to, eat very high fat, restrict protein, fast, or maybe even take exogenous ketones, but all of which is really unnecessary. As long as you're showing some reading of ketosis, then you're burning fat for energy, and therefore you're using fat for energy. And if you're not eating any carbs, well, then you're going to be fine. I will have now. This is something that people take issue with this with me. They say they disagree with me on this. Some very actually prominent YouTube influencers will say this is not true. But if I eat low fat, high protein, it will kick me out of ketosis. And because I always use the example of chicken. If I sit down for dinner and I just pound 2 or 3 chicken breasts, it's meat, it's carnivore, but I will be up on the scale the next day. It'll put weight on me. And that's because of gluconeogenesis. In the absence of fat, the body will convert the excess protein into glucose through that process of gluconeogenesis, and that will kick you out of ketosis. So then for a period of time, because I ate lean meat, I'm running on glucose. So,
well, in that vein of thought, protein consumption is also often blamed for lower ketones, and protein can contribute to lower BHB. And while protein can stimulate insulin, it also stimulates glucagon. And the metabolic response is very different from consuming a large carbohydrate load, though. Now, but before we cut protein, we need to ask ourselves, would eating less protein make me healthier? Are you trying to preserve muscle or losing weight? Especially as you get older, be careful about giving up adequate protein just to chase higher ketones. But you're talking about low fat. You're talking about just straight protein. And yeah, you're right. That can it'll definitely show lower numbers. And I question the numbers that they say that are optimal and all this, because how are they measuring the numbers? Because like I said before, it can only measure what's in your bloodstream, not what your body's doing with the ketones. I don't know that there's any measurement for the utilization of the ketones in your body. But gluconeogenesis is a real thing. But what gets a lot of people, and they think it's gluconeogenesis, and a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it can be, unless they're extremely strict carnivores, it can be carb creep. Carb creep got me when I was doing Atkins back in the 90s. It got you, Bob. I know that, from, you got all the keto sauces and the keto breads and all this stuff. Yep. They say keto, they market as keto when it's nothing but carbohydrates. Yep. It causes that carbohydrate creep into us. And next thing you know, it's done to sabotage our efforts. The carbohydrates have accumulated within us without realizing it. Our glucose goes up, the ketones go down, so, and for somebody that's doing keto, that's something you got to watch out for. Don't fall for those keto snacks, those keto treats, stuff like that. They are evil, pure evil. Stay away from them.
Yeah, because the other way carb creep the other way carb creeps up on you when you're doing keto. And again, I have nothing against keto. I think keto is a great plan for a lot of people, but it's easy to get blindsided. And so we'll be very upfront about, the keto tortillas and the keto bread, the keto shakes and the keto protein bars. That's all junk. That's not really keto. That's big food lying to your face. Okay. But then you'll see like say G. Hughes sugar-free ketchup. Is it keto? Yes. Or you'll see like Sweet Baby Ray's sugar-free barbecue sauce, sweetened with allulose. Is it keto? Yes. But, how much are you using? How often are you using it? So you start getting carried away with some of the sauces. You start getting carried away with some of the gravies. Or you might want to use a cheese that melts real easy and pour it over something. And then, why does it melt so easy? Because they've got some carbs in there, that's adulterating that cheese. And so next thing you know, you're consuming more carbs than you're aware of. And then you're wondering, well, I'm eating keto. How come this isn't working? It's because if you actually look closely, there's more carbs than you thought creeping into your diet. So,
and we see the same thing in the carnivore community. Exact same thing. Like you for example, you take the sugar-free ketchup. We focus a lot on sugar. I do. I mean, I read labels. Mm-hmm. I see sugar in it. I see the one of the 175 different names for sugars, and I will toss it out. I'm not going to use it, But a lot of people don't read labels, and they'll see something like sugar-free ketchup. Oh, I can eat ketchup now because it doesn't have sugar. Right. You're still eating a processed fruit. It's called tomatoes. And what else is in there? Are there seed oils in there? Are there starches in there? Are there, you've got to read your labels. Do you want that back into your diet after you've eliminated it? Because it's still a carbohydrate. And that's where the carbohydrate creeps in on carnivore. Mm-hmm. Same thing with seasonings. Man, you got to be so careful with seasonings. And I will admit, okay, so like I cooked up 12 racks, and then a rack is just 2 ribs. So don't everybody think I did too much, but I cooked up 12 racks of beef ribs Saturday, and we were having some friends over, and I seasoned them the night before and wrapped them, and I seasoned them with a clean rub, meaning it had no sugar in it. I was okay with the ingredients that were in it. And to be honest, those rubs that are sugar-free really aren't as good. They're not as tasty. I mean, I use them, sometimes I just use salt, but when I put a rub on these because we were having guests over. We're having people over that are not carnivores, and I can tolerate the seasonings as long as I keep them as clean as I can. But they don't taste as good as the regular rib rubs that have brown sugar. You get used to that sweet taste in there. They don't taste as good, but I'm still not going to use it because I don't want that in my body. But a lot of people, they start going overboard with this, with the seasonings, letting them back in, and before they know it, they're putting stuff in their body they don't want again. That carb.
Well, that's what's fascinating about this lifestyle, right? I mean, I tried keto for a long time, but there were always those little open doors where the devil would get in, right? And it would uptick the triggers. This is the only route where I close all those doors. And you're 100% right, Jeff. It's the discerning factor of grabbing a label and looking at it. And if it has OSE at the end of the word, I'm putting it back. I don't, to me, life has become so simple. It's like the simplest thing, and I wouldn't want to have it any other way. Ground meat, eggs, fat, salt, some seltzer, and guess what? That's it.
Yeah.
I don't need much to be happy. I'm a simple man, like Leonard Skinner said. That's it. That's all I need. the extra things of what maybe other people, again, I'm not condoning, I'm not saying anything evil, but everyone has their ways. Like, I wouldn't be able to do what one of the comments said, that, you know, it was my birthday, I did this. I wish I could do that. I commend people of just getting off the track and then going back on the following day as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
Man, let me tell you, I'll go to like these Fogo de Chaos, these Brazilian steakhouses, and I feel it. Even though it's all meat, who knows what seasonings there are, but I'm so sensitive right now because of this whole elimination diet that gradually I start placing things back in. I'm like, this isn't for me. It's taking me out of that mental clarity, and I don't want any of it. I don't know. I'm very feast or famine kind of guy, and I like it. I like that disciplinarian mindset of I'm not putting this stuff back into my system, which I already know what it can cause.
Well, being an addict, a food addict.
Yeah.
I was a glutton, shamefully, and having kicked other addictive habits, like smoking, chewing tobacco, coffee. I have learned from the mistakes that I made back then when it came to eating this lifestyle, that this had to be a lifestyle, number one. It can't be a diet. It has to be my lifestyle.
Yes.
And I learned that if I deviate just one time, I could lose the whole thing, you know, because I'm weak. Like you said, I'm sinful. I'm a weak man. And I know how weak I am. I know my limitations.
Right.
Now, for those, like my wife, she can sit there and have one scoop of ice cream and be fine for a month.
Crazy.
Me, I want to destroy that whole half gallon all by myself in one evening. You know, I mean, I'm a terrible glutton. It's so shameful. So I know my limitations, and so I know it's best, like any addict, just don't touch it, leave it alone. And there's times when something will creep in for whatever reason, and you know, because I'm someplace, I think I'm eating something clean, and like you said, you become sensitive to it. You know, that doesn't throw me too bad. That's not too terribly bad.
Yep.
But like, okay, so my daughter brought over cheesecake, you know, for the dinner we had Saturday, and there was potato salad there, and this, that, and other thing, and because like I said, we're hosting people that are not carnivores, and it was so easy. Of course, I've been carnivore now for over 3 years, and it was so easy for me to avoid that stuff. I mean, it's not even a temptation anymore. It's so far gone out of my lexicon, so to speak. You know, it doesn't compute to me as food anymore. And so it's easy for me to just stick with meat, eggs, salt, and water. I don't need anything else. It's all my body needs. And well, I'll tell you what. So we was fishing last night, and my son whipped out a package of carnivore snacks, SNAX, and you talk about. I mean, these were super thin strips, and the ones he brought out were pork. And they were super, super thin strips that were dried out and just crisp like chips, and had a good dusting of salt on them. And I'm going to tell you what, that was like eating the best potato chips I ever eat in my life. Oh my gosh, them things was good. And I looked it up to see how much them things cost, and they're like $40 a bag. It was quite a few in there, but at $40, I could wipe that whole bag out real easy by myself. Right. And I went, yeah, I'm going to have to see about making my own. I've got to dehydrate. I'll just make my own. You know, but it's something how I'm telling you, that turned me on. Eating that meat turned me on. I loved it so much. It was like eating potato chips, you know. Which potato chips aren't even food, in my opinion. But this stuff was just, I mean, when we get into this, we learn to love it so much And then when we have something like that, it's just, I mean, our body just rejoices in it. It's kind of weird to say, but we just love it. I look forward to eating meat.
Ditto. Absolutely. I had a question for you, Jeff. With the cheesecake and whatnot, wasn't there? Because I know it happens to me. There's like a millisecond moment of reflection of saying, "Do I need this? This is not for me." And it happens so fast, and like it's like a small little bubble in time. And I'm like, "No, I don't need it." It's
not anymore. I understand what you're saying. Okay, when I started Carnivore, I started on May 9th. I'd have to do the math to figure out the year. Bob,
2023.
Okay, yeah, he started a couple weeks after I did, so we're pretty well in sync. But anyways, I started on May 9th, 2023, and June 12th is my birthday. And it's a tradition in our family. My daughter has a business of making cheesecakes. And I've said it before, she makes the best cheesecake in the world. I'll fight anybody for that. So my wife said, your daughter's going to make you a cheesecake. I said, I know, and I hope everybody enjoys it. She goes, well, you're going to have a slice, aren't you? I said, no, I'm not.
nice.
I don't do that anymore. And it had only been a couple of weeks. Well, about a month is all. It had only been about a month, and I'm not at that point. I haven't kicked the habit yet. I'm not over my addiction yet. So it took discipline to do it, but my discipline is my mindset. I didn't listen to my body. Yeah, my body said, "What would one slice hurt?" But my mind saying, "You're in this for the long haul." You can't have that. You don't want that. You don't want anything in your body that's not going to be nutritious for your body. You don't need that junk. So yeah, I had to go through that. There's that twinge. And I remember one time we had gotten our hands on some expired tortillas, corn tortillas. And I'm from South Texas. I grew up I grew up with Mexican families eating real Mexican food, and I come from San Antonio, the land of Tex-Mex, and I love tortillas. I love Mexican food. And I'm sitting there looking at those tortillas up on the counter, and by this time I'm a year or more into carnivore, and I no longer have cravings. But I discovered something. I had a memory. It wasn't a craving, but I had a memory of how good those tortillas are when I butter them up and put a little salt on them. And it was a mental craving. It wasn't a physical craving. There's a difference, but it was a memory of, I remember when that was so good. Which is enough to make you cave if you ain't careful. You got to really be careful of that stuff. But I've been doing this so long now. It's just, it's second nature to me now to not even look at that stuff as food. But to make sure it stays, like that, I have to watch that carb creep. I got to read those labels. I got to make sure that what I'm eating is clean enough for my body.
All righty. So, Kim, there's some background noise going on there, so I muted you. I don't know if you noticed. So anytime you want to, anytime you want to speak, just feel free to unmute yourself if you know how, or if you don't know how, just wave or signal or something, and I'll do it for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, there we go. There we go. All right, very nice. So I actually had to answer the phone. That was my dad calling while you guys were talking about that. All right, so let's see here. We were talking about, ketones before I focused out and took that phone call, and I was just thinking that some of the bigger wins than the ketones is just what Dan was talking about. He's talking about paying his own meter and how he feels. And so, those bigger wins come from eating that real food, getting adequate protein, removing inflammatory inputs such as plants, with the oxalates and the lectins and those things like that, if you're sensitive to those. And many people don't realize they are sensitive to it. Some people, they have no idea that they could feel good. They could feel better. They could feel as good as we do.
Right.
Because they've been eating this stuff all their lives. And so to them, it's just normal, so, if they have a good day with just a few aches and pains, that's normal. That's a good day. But, and we try and tell them like, hey, if you would just try all meat elimination diet for 30, 60, 90 days, you might be blown away at how good you can feel and how clear you can think, because we talked about the brain fog as well. Let's go over to some comments I've starred here. Papa Carnivore says, I never measured my ketones in almost 4 years of keto and then carnivore. What's the point? I just eat lots of fatty meat, eggs, butter, seafood. And yeah, ultimately, if you're doing all that and you're seeing the results that you want, there's not really a point. Already that you're going to be in ketosis.
Some people are just information junkies.
Right. So let's talk about when measuring ketones can be useful. So we have early adaptation phase. So you want to confirm that the body is making the fuel switch. That's where the ketone P strips came in. That's why they were so fun at the beginning, because you're like, oh, you get these P strips and you should change when you're in ketosis. It should change purple. And so what do? You go down to the CVS and you buy a small kit. You pee on the stick and you're like, oh, wow. It's motivating at the beginning, and then, of course,
then disappointing when they don't see the numbers that they want.
Right.
They don't know how to read that properly.
Yeah. So as we learn in time, is you might, when you first convert, you're going to have a very strong reading, but then that's going to level off a bit, and so it won't be as dark. And I remember being there like, why isn't it as dark purple as it used to be? It wasn't important.
Well, and I don't know if you started this or not, but so I'm going through the comments myself, and Angie says sometimes testing stresses me out, and then my numbers aren't good. I only use it during longer fasts. Right there, exactly. You're stressing yourself because your numbers ain't good, but your numbers are lying to you, or maybe lying to you. They're not telling you the whole story. I should say, So don't stress about it, because all it's measuring is the ketones that are waiting to be used in your bloodstream. It's not measuring the ketones that are actually being utilized in your body. So don't stress about it. Learn to understand how the ketones are working in your body. It's not all about reading a number on a scale.
It's so true. I was showing this on camera when I was on keto. This thing expired 2021. I was one of those junkies that I needed to measure, needed to make sure. And it was an overkill, and it still is. Again, I feel like I'm this bottle. I know exactly how to gauge. And if I eat certain things that I think is good for me, like if I go to a restaurant that I don't even know what they put in there, and I plead with them, I'm like, look, I can't have seed oils. And, I don't know if people have gone to this point, but where you go to a restaurant, they're like, do you have any allergies? I was like, yeah, all of the above, especially sugar. And they're like, what do you mean you're allergic to sugar? I'm like, I don't know. It causes inflammation in my body. And they're going through their books and they can't find sugar. And I'm like, just please, you don't want me dropping dead. Like, I can't have that. It's like the only way that they could prepare the meal is if they think, all right, we have to do it right because we don't want to get hit with a lawsuit, which I would never do. But it's the only way that they could, like putting the fear of God in them. They're like, all right, hold on a second. Let's scrub the freaking grill down and let's make sure this is going well.
Have you heard Bob's story about seed oils? You got to tell it, Bob. It's a good.
Which story was that?
About seed oils at the restaurant. Oh, I'm allergic to seed oils.
Yeah. So when I was in 2023, my first year of carnivore, I was strict, like very strict. And I was like, I didn't want to touch a seed oil or anything. And then just to note that after my first year, if I go out to eat now, I don't care what they cook it in. I don't ask. And then if I go out to eat now, I might cheat with keto for that meal. I might, go to Longhorn Steakhouse, get my New York strip. I'll have the asparagus, So, I do eat, I occasionally will have plant matter from time to time on what I consider rare occasions. But back in 23, I was, really into this carnivore diet. I'd been on it for a couple months, lost a lot of weight, felt great, and I was super zealous, taking in all this information. So we go to Texas Roadhouse, and when you're standing in line waiting to get seated, there's a meat counter with all the raw meat on it, and you can look over that and you can see the cooks frying. And I saw this cook, he gets a ladle of something out of a silver pan, pours it on a flat top grill, and then throws a steak on the grill. And I'm like, what is that? And so I asked, I was like, what did you just put on the grill there? And he said it was rice oil. I'm like, oh, okay. And then so we go to sit down, and the server comes up, and I remember I heard Dr. Barry suggest this, or maybe someone in his community, and she's taking our orders. And so I asked for a New York strip, and I said, however, I was like, can you not throw it on the flat top with any seed oils? Just throw it right on the grill, right on the broiler over the flame, and cook it that way. I was like, because I'm allergic to seed oils, and I don't want to drop dead in your dining room. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah. So she takes our order and she leaves. And about 2 minutes later, like 2 employees and 2 managers come over, and they're like, who's the person that's allergic to seed oils? And I'm like, I'm like, that was me. And they're like, well, are you going to be okay? Because, there's always that chance it's going to come in contact with something else, but I made the comment about dropping dead in the dining room,
Yeah.
And I was like, it'll be all right. I was like, just don't grease the grill and throw my steak on the grill. If you just throw it on the fire, that'll be enough. I'll be fine. But then after that, I was like, okay, I probably shouldn't say I'm allergic to seed oils anymore. One, it wasn't true, and I don't like to lie. And that's why, because now I just created this snowball of a situation that it was much more alarming than it needed to be. So.
My wife hates it. Like whenever we go out, I don't look at it as a lie. I'm looking at it as it does something to me. So I'm like, please, I get out of control. I turn green. I don't know. There's spikes that come out of my neck if I eat these kind of things back into my diet. So they're like, all right, no problem.
Well, there is truth to it. Yeah, there's definitely truth to it, and even the seed oils. We are technically allergic to this stuff because it affects our bodies in a negative way. Isn't that what an allergy is? So, are we going to drop dead? Well, probably not, but we're going to be affected.
Now, so like Rick, Charger Mopar Rick, he says that he can tell if he goes to a restaurant if they cooked it in seed oils. He can tell instantly. And not instantly. He can tell within the next hour because he'll have to go to the bathroom. So he says that that's the way it affects him gastrointestinally. I don't have that problem. So I don't have the sensitivity that you, Dan, or Rick, says that they have towards the seed oils. So that's why I kind of I don't go out of my way to eat seed oils. I mean, the seed oils are as far as I'm concerned, they should be avoided. But my lifestyle now avoids them to such the nth degree compared to my previous lifestyle when, I was eating ultra processed foods that had seed oils and everything. I've removed them so far from my life that the occasional contact with seed oil, I'm not too concerned about. So, all right. Aaron, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Glad you could join us tonight.
Oh, it seems like a real fun topic because for the past 2 months, I've been chasing ketones and I've had some really awesome results. So I thought I'd pop on and talk a little bit. So I've been carnivore since March 3rd, 2023. Initially I lost 50 pounds, and then I lost about 80 pounds. And then I was like stalled forever for like 2 years. And I really didn't care, because when I'm I'm carnivore diet, my brain and mental health is so much better. So I love it. And I'm not gonna like be, oh man, I'm not losing all the weight. This diet sucks type deal. Like, I love this diet. It's amazing. I love the way I feel. So recently, at the end of June, I was gifted a Keto Mojo. And I'm like, well, this will be interesting. I don't know what I'm doing. So right away, I'd wait for the next day, and then I test maybe every 2 hours after I ate something, because I figured it was like, with I had gestational diabetes with all my kids. I had 10 kids. So I'm pretty used to testing every 2 hours. So I figured that's what I had to do. And somebody was like, no, 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 no. You only have to do it once in the morning, like your dawn effect. You want to catch that and see what your sugars and your ketones are. So that's what I did, but they weren't what I thought they'd be. Well, sugars were okay, but the ketones were like 0.5 or 0.6. And I was thinking, no, I'm doing carnivore. They got to be like, 1.1 and stuff. So I thought, well, maybe I'm eating too late in the day, because I'd eat like at 6 o'clock at night, and I would do OMAD. So I brought it back to 3. And the next day, my numbers were just like kind of the same. They weren't that great. So I brought it back to 2 o'clock. They were still kind of not where I wanted them to be, because I figured, I wanted good fat burning ketones. And so I decided to go to 12 o'clock, and I started getting better numbers. But I wasn't weighing myself because my scale broke. But luckily, during like the middle of July, I got a scale in the mail, and I've actually lost 20 pounds doing this. I ended up knocking back my 1 meal a day to about 7 in the morning is my time to eat. My body needs, this is just for me, my body needs like 23 hours of just fasting. And I've been stalled for 2 years, guys. So I've already lost like 22 pounds.
Well,
22 pounds since the stall, right?
I've been stalled for 2 years. And
yeah.
When I chasing the ketones in July, 22 pounds since July.
Wow.
Pounds post stall.
Well, you bring up an excellent and correct point, that timing matters. You can't be checking them all the time, because your body is in constant flux. It's constantly changing throughout the day, just like your weight. Your weight changes constantly throughout the day. So timing matters. Now, the measurements can differ between morning and evening. Food, eating, when you've eaten, how much you've eaten, what kind of food you've eaten, your fasting, how long you've been fasting, your exercise, sleep, hormonal signals. These can all change your reading. So to be more accurate, you need to use the same approximate time, similar fasting duration, and similar relationship to your last meal and exercise. So, timing is everything if you want to get the most accurate reading. But like I said before, you're not just reading what you're reading is what's in your bloodstream, not what your body is utilizing. That's two different things. You have no way of knowing what your body is utilizing. The ketones are waiting in your bloodstream to be used. So you're reading a 5 at one point, the next point you're reading a 3. Well, it's not so much that your number is dropped. It's just that your body may be using ketones at that moment. So it's depleting some of what's in your bloodstream. But what's in your bloodstream is doing nothing but sitting there waiting to either be used or be expelled. It's like sitting in a gas tank, So you got a gas tank full of ketones. When you're running, the ketones are being used. When you're not running, the engine's not running, the ketones ain't being used. So they sit there and accumulate. That's the easiest way I know how to explain it. So this is why we've got to understand what chasing the numbers is all about. Just because your number says this doesn't mean that that's what your body isn't utilizing. You You can be a 5, you can be a 6 or a 7. That's just what's in your bloodstream, you know. But just because you're a 2 or a 3 doesn't mean your body isn't using ketones. You're still in ketosis.
Aaron, I found interesting what you said about the 23 hours. You know, I've noticed that too, that during the weekend when I'm home and, you know, doing things around the house, I'm finding myself like eating maybe twice a day. But when I go to work, I do full 23 hours of just the one meal to the next. And I always feel during the week when I'm at work, my body and my mind is at its most optimal level. And yeah, it's that 23 hour of fasting where, and it's the crazy thing because I see people at work after lunch, they're crashing. And my level of energy is consistent throughout the entire day. Like I'm not dozing off. I used to, and for what I do, you can't be doing things like that. You have to be sharp, and I used to my eyes would just roll back, and I see it with coworkers like, oh man, I just had this huge bowl of Chinese food or whatever the case is. And I'm like, yeah, that's not fuel. But again, who am I to say something like that? We have to set an example by how we live our lives. But I noticed that 23-hour mark for me, when I get home and I eat my steak, it's like I'm eating it for the very first time. That's how good it tastes.
So it looks like Kim took off. I just wanted to say, if you're still listening, Kim, thanks for joining us. We enjoyed having you as a guest, and you're welcome back anytime you like. All right. Let's see here. And all right, yeah. So it was my comment when listening to Aaron's testimony was I actually heard in another community. It was in Dr. Barry's community. I heard Nisha and some of the other female PhD coaches over there saying that they've noticed a pattern where it seems like women seem to do better if they eat something in the morning. Whereas a lot of men like to wake up, don't eat till noon or 1 or 2. They find that women who do that don't do as well as if they wake up and have something, even if it's just a little something right away. And so you talked about moving your OMAD, from, basically dinner to lunch, and now basically breakfast. As they say, it's the most important meal of the day, at least for you.
Yeah, for me.
And now you're seeing some great results. So it kind of reinforces what I heard in that other community that, maybe there's something to that, particularly for women, that they seem to function better when they have their one meal a day earlier, shortly after waking up versus later in the day. So I've started losing my weight by intermittent fasting. So I also stalled for 2 years. I dropped my first 60 pounds from May 12th was when I started, 4 days after Jeff here. It was May 12th, 2023 to sometime in November 2023. I had hit 175, and then I stopped my weight loss, and I maintained it for over 2 years. So for 2 years, I'd be somewhere, I would oscillate between 175 and 179. I saw 180 at one point, didn't like that, and I kind of tightened the reins a little bit, but I was happy there because that was my initial goal weight, was to take, was to get down to 175. So I'd float around on average of 177. But then I decided this last summer that I wanted to make another run for it. And so I went back to intermittent fasting. So I cut out a meal. I was eating 3 meals a day. Mm-hmm. I cut out a meal. So now I don't eat lunch. I wake up and I eat breakfast, go to work. I work all day long. I don't stop. And then I don't eat again until I'm back home and we have dinner as a family. So those are my 2 meals a day. And then that's it, like, between 5, 6, 7 at the latest. And then not another thing goes in my mouth, up until I go to sleep, until I wake up the next morning. And I wake up about 7, and then I eat about 8:30 and slip out the door at 9. So that's kind of my habit now. 8:30 a.m. and then about 6 p.m. So those are my 2 meals a day, and I've taken off, another 13 pounds now. So
nice.
So here's to breaking the stall.
Freaking A, baby. Thank you.
I should also add in that I was exercising all the time like crazy, thinking maybe I should just exercise or maybe something's wrong with my body. But with chasing the ketones and changing my eating window and exercising is finally working for me. I think it's one of the major parts with it.
Mm.
And I've been doing exercise for like 4 months, but I've also just exercised all the time anyway. It's just really important to me, but I never would lose any weight. And I was just like, I kind of gave up in a way. It's like, nothing's happening, but I'm still doing it. Maybe eventually one day it'll be like, oh, magic, it's doing it.
I generally hate exercise, but I work hard. I'm in construction and I set tile, so I'm lifting heavy things all day long.
Yeah.
And so when I get home, it's like, do you want to go lift more heavy things? No, not really. I've been doing that all darn day.
I'm gonna tell you what, it was tough to hit the gym this morning, after chasing blue cats all night long, and then only getting a few hours sleep. I hated going to the gym today, but man, it felt good once I got there and got the workout in. But, exercise is important, but the old saying, what they say, you can't outrun a bad diet,
Yeah, my diet's a good diet.
It used to be so disappointing. I'd get on like a walking machine, or something, or elliptical or something. And, I don't know how they figure it, and I'm sure it's not accurate, but it always give you calories burnt, and you get on there and you run 5 miles or something, look on there and it says you burned 200 calories. What? There's no way, that can't be right, But I mean, it just kind of goes to show you it really doesn't do that much as far as, burning calories, weight loss, this kind of thing. There was a kid on YouTube. I watched him several times. He would do these enormous eating things. Like he took a 5-pound gummy bear and ate the whole thing in one sitting. And he ended up throwing up during his run. But he'll eat a massive amount of food, like one of everything on the menu at Taco Bell or something. And then he factors up how many calories is in, and then he goes and runs until he runs off those calories.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that.
Okay. Just to show you what it takes to run off a meal. So I think it was on the 5-pound gummy bear. He ended up running 30 miles before he ran off enough calories to say he run off everything on that gummy bear. Hey, exercise ain't worth it, folks. Not that. If you're doing exercise because you want to strengthen your body, because you want to maintain what you got, that's great. But don't think you can do it because you want to lose weight.
Yeah, you're right. I couldn't agree more. For me, it's more of the accountability aspect of, all right, this is what I need to do at 5 o'clock in the morning, get up, do what I need, just go to the gym downstairs. And I have like my routine in the morning that I came across it with this kind of lifestyle. And it's, there's some mornings that I just don't want to do it, but I hone in and I'm like, no, I'm going to get up. I'm going to pray, going to go downstairs, going to read the Bible. After that, I'm going to go downstairs, work out. And then from there, going to work. I need to go to work in third gear, in fourth gear, as opposed to just schlepping into work or just the start of my day, just like waking up while everybody else does. I want to be up.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you do?
I'm in the healthcare field.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
We're all in the healthcare field now, ain't we?
That's right. Like my answer, right?
Our own healthcare, but yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I almost went into healthcare. I
say bye. I gotta get these kids to bed. So.
All right. Okay.
Take care, Aaron.
Glad you joined us, Aaron.
I'll come in.
It's good to see you again.
We'll see you.
Yeah, I played around. I studied medicine for a couple of years, trained in it, and I discovered it just wasn't for me. wasn't my thing. My sister's a RN. She was an emergency room nurse on night shift for 20 years.
Wow.
And she's a tough old broad, but it ain't my thing.
Angie Z, just subscribed, new to you, but not to the community, newer to carnivore. Well, thank you very much, Angie. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. She also says, sometimes testing stresses me out and then my numbers aren't good. I'll use it during longer fasts. I think you read that earlier, Jeff.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we'd just been talking about that and it came up.
Right.
So I thought it was
appropriate.
All right.
Hey,
what's happening?
Yes.
Dustin.
Love
How we
Dustin.
doing, gentlemen?
Sup?
good. So, Dustin with Keto Simple, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. How are you guys?
Pretty good. We're talking about ketones. And since you're Keto Simple, we figure maybe you got a few things to say about it.
Why not?
I bought a bag of ketones off of Amazon. They were really cheap. They were just like some powdered BHBs. I think they were like $21 for like a 300 serving bag, just to play around with, just to see what they would do, and didn't really notice much of a difference.
Yeah, I've never taken any exogenous ketones.
No.
Well, I'll take that back. There's a YouTuber that I watch. He lives here in Ohio, not too far from me. His name is Roman Atwood, and he has a drink that he sells called Kinetic. And it's an energy drink, but it doesn't have sugar or caffeine in it. It has ketones in it. So that's his fuel source. So I've ordered those a couple times just to show my support. Sometimes you see me wearing his shirts too here on the live. And so those are technically exogenous ketones. It was tasty. Did I notice anything difference? No. They didn't like superpower me up or anything because my life is in ketosis much of the time anyway as a carnivore. So
there was an energy drink on the market for just a brief while. It was actually like uncarbonated. It was called Voos.
Oh yeah, I remember drinking that.
I'm trying to see if I can remember. It was called Voos. Let's see if I can figure out if I can find it. I did a video on it. I know I did. But when I did the video, I didn't realize that it had beta hydroxybutyrate in it. I didn't realize it was a ketone beverage until I was going back to edit the video. When I was editing the video, I was pull up, the ingredients and all that stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, there was ketones in this. Let's see.
Let's see Rick in the chat. Up on up, Rick.
Let me make sure.
While he's looking that up, Golden Girl asked this almost a half an hour ago. Dan, how do you prepare your ground beef?
There's salt, some tallow, salt. I know it's going to sound pretty weird, but I flip it once, and as soon as I see it medium rare, I shut off the stove. I put the lid on top, and that's it. I let it kind of continue to cook subtly for like 5 minutes, and then I take it out. And I, beef, butter, and eggs, and bacon, all that good stuff. But it's I don't like this word, but it is moist. I'm not a fan of that. I'm very particular with words.
Yeah, no, it's not an unpopular word for a lot of people.
Very not, no.
Yeah.
That and egg yolks, believe it or not. Runny egg yolks, I can't do. Sorry, guys. I know it's taboo in this community. Can't do runny egg yolks. Nope.
I can, but I tend to overcook my eggs, so they end up over medium anyway. So the yolk will be mostly gelled over. So yeah, I don't like that. I can't do the runny. If there's any runny white, if there's any jiggly white stuff in the egg, it's completely undercooked. The whites have to be cooked.
Can't do it. No.
I can do the yolk, but I can't do any runny white. It's just
my only quirk to that. I can do both, but my only quirk to that is if I hit an eggshell.
Yeah. Oh, that
If I hit
crunch.
an eggshell, my breakfast is over. I'm done right there.
It's over.
I can't eat another bite.
The gag reflex takes over. I can't do that.
There it is. There
I
it
don't
is.
mind the eggshell. I can do
I just
that.
I just kind of chew through it.
I can't do it. No,
It's not pleasant, but I'm like, I'm hungry, so
I no longer have an appetite.
I did find information about this. So basically, it was a subsidiary of Bang. It was like a spin-off product from Bang Energy Drink. It was a concept was sold as a healthy alternative to traditional sports drinks. Zero sugar, zero carbs, no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. The pitch, heavily marketed Vooz. It was VOOZ in aluminum cans rather than plastic bottles, arguing that it was better for the environment, yada, yada, right? Ingredients contain electrolytes, zinc, D3, and it was a ketone-based energy instead of caffeine.
Mm. I remember seeing that booze by me.
Yeah, they had a big like a legal battle. It looks like bankruptcy. Yeah, because I guess Monster purchased Bang in 2023. That's kind of why you don't see a lot of Bang energy drinks anymore. They were everywhere for a while.
I didn't know. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I haven't seen a lot of Bang on gas station store shelves in a while.
If you do, you maybe see 3 flavors and like on the bottom shelf.
Yeah. All right.
Did you guys know the story of Red Bull, right? How that took off? It's like the wildest thing. Number one, it tastes horrendous. It's like carbonated rubber touching. But the way how they took off was they had this idea of having like hundreds of empty cans of Red Bull and placing them outside of clubs. So when people would be walking by, they would look at it and say, "Oh my goodness, let's try this." And they would go to the store and they would think that that's what's hot, what's in. And from that, it took off. Isn't that crazy? Like the inverse thought process of it?
Manipulation.
Isn't it crazy to think of things like that?
Genius at the same time.
Genius,
but genius at the same time.
And you know what they do? So like a lot of those energy drinks like Rockstar and Monster, they sponsor like big music festivals.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of the talent or like the rock stars themselves or whoever they are, they have motocross, whatever. They're all walking around drinking their Monster energy drinks or their Rockstar energy drinks all day long. But if you had a chance to take the can that they're drinking from and look at it, it's the exact same can, but it's water.
I believe it.
Because you can't drink those all day.
Right. Yeah,
you can, but you're not going to be very good. You're not going to have a good day.
Exactly. 100%.
I remember I tried one of them things one time. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a Monster. I don't know. That was back when I was doing Adkins and I was a gym rat and I was hitting the gym hard 3 days a week. And I thought it'd see if it helped me, in my workouts. And I tried that and I tried Redline. Redline was one I liked. The Redline was one that helped me in my workouts more than any of them, but that's some potent stuff. But they taste horrible. I don't know how people drink them things. They're just nasty.
Redline's actually a pre-workout. So Redline is like Redline's not an average energy drink. That one's actually a pre-workout.
That's why I used it for. Was
a
pre-workout, and it worked. It worked, but I'm sure it wasn't good for me either.
Well, you want to hear an even worse combination was the Jaeger bombs. Jägermeister within itself is disgusting, and then you couple it with a Red Bull. Fun times. It's like they really had me really. I was under some heavy hypnosis in order to drink that stuff, but never again.
We used to go back in the before times. We used to go to this bar, and they would have $3 UV bombs. So they had like this brand of vodka called UV, and they would mix it with Red Bull. So that was $3. Mm-hmm. So I go out. You could have, 5 of them for $15. That's right. A good Friday night for $15. So you drink those. You'd get kind of tipsy, but you get home, you're tipsy, but you're like, you're just like, okay, now what? It's 3 a.m. and I'm wide awake.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah, those were crazy days, man. No more of those days. Thank God I can't. I have kids. There's no way.
We don't need it anymore.
We don't need it. Thank you for saving me on that one.
You know, you said it earlier. You have this sustained energy now, and that's the ketones firing in us. We have that sustained. You know, when you're running on glucose, you have those energy spikes, but when you're on ketones, you have that steady energy all day.
We got a new party now.
Yeah.
Rick comes back with his high quality H2O.
I don't understand what people see in alcohol. It's disgusting. It's like drinking lacquer thinner.
It's an escape.
Escape from what?
Thinner.
It's an escape from reality.
So Rick can laugh at you when you act stupid.
Oh, so how's it going?
I worked as a bouncer in the bars for 7 years. So I was around a lot of people that were drunk, and I was always sober. And I'm going to tell you what, that alone's enough to make you not want to drink.
Right.
Because
I know too many people.
You see how people actually act.
I know too many people that ruin their lives with that bottle.
Yep.
I used to be a regular drinker. So I used to drink. Used to come home, have a beer with every dinner. Used to drink a whiskey on ice at night before I went to bed to help me go to sleep. And then
I've never been drunk.
And then I got out of getting drunk as I got older. So like I haven't done that in a long time, but now I only drink socially. So like Friday we went out for a karaoke. We had about 10 people that came out with us, and I did have a couple drinks there. And but that's it, just socially. I've got alcohol downstairs in the kitchen that sits on this shelf. And even I've had, one of the guys that worked for me came over, and even a couple times, and even made the comment. He goes, "I can tell you don't have an alcohol problem." He goes, "Because every time I come over," he goes, "those bottles, they never go down. They're always at the same level." Because I don't touch them anymore.
You should see how much alcohol I have in my house. A ton. I get it from cleanouts.
Really?
I give it as gifts.
Yeah.
We have our get together tonight,
and everything for gifts.
That's right. I'm the dealer. I'm giving it to them. I'm getting them hooked.
Rick, you never got hammered?
Never.
Never?
Never. Everyone says I should have been a priest. I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't mate. I'm the oldest virgin in Dade County.
That's fantastic.
Good on you, I suppose.
Good.
And not a gray hair on his head. So it's
no, nothing. Look at that. I got gray hair on my neck.
But you're younger than me.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I don't even know what a gray hair looks like.
He's been a carnivore for 43 years. You haven't.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I would love to know what I would be like physically, mentally, emotionally, if I had been a carnivore as long as he had.
I agree.
It'd be a wonderful thing to know. But of course, we all start where we're at. And I don't know that I could have had the discipline back then.
Don't take no discipline.
Pardon?
Doesn't take any discipline.
Well, in my case, I think it would have, but it's one of those things that I have to believe that I wasn't ready for it yet.
Reasonable.
I started when I was ready for it.
Right.
And for me, like a lot of people, it was when I was. It's like coming to Christ. You're beat down. You're at the lowest. When you finally give in and say something's got to change in my life, and that's how it happened for me. And that was laying on a gurney in a hospital, with a team of doctors and nurses trying to get my heart back in rhythm.
Yeah.
Something's got to change, and so the change happened. Had I been introduced to this before then, I don't know if I would have been as successful as I am now with it. you know. So I'm thankful I found it when I did, and I'm thankful that I had the wherewithal to have the common sense to research it, understand it, and get involved in it and do it. And so, you know, I was out on the lake all night with my son, and we was chasing catfish all night, and I turned to him last night and I thanked him. I says, you don't ever have to give me another gift for any reason, because you've already given me the greatest gift of my life, and that is my life. Because it was my son who introduced me to carnivore. And I told him, I will always be in debt to you for that.
Wonder where he got the idea from.
He got the idea from YouTube.
Really?
Came across, he started checking into it, and he had been doing it for a couple of years before he told me about it. But, you know, he told me about it because, you know, after my fourth major AFib attack that put me in the ICU, you know, he asked me, he says, Dad, is this going to shorten your life? And I said, more than likely it will. And I'm at, 5 to 6 times higher risk for stroke. And he said, well, I'd like to keep you around a little bit longer. I'd like to tell you something if you can listen to me with an open mind. And I said, sure. And then he started explaining nutrition, how it works in our bodies, and which led eventually into carnivore. And he told me, don't believe what I'm telling you because I'm telling you just because I've done the research. I want you to do your own research, and he gave me the links and the doctors to listen to, the studies, the papers. And I spent 2 weeks studying this before I finally jumped on it. But by the time I finished 2 weeks of looking into it, I knew I wanted to give this a shot for 30 days just to see. And at the end of that 30 days, it led to another 30 to another 30. And by the end of that 90 days, I was hooked. I knew I'd do this for the rest of my life because I knew this is how I should have been eating all my life.
I think it's interesting because my parents never thought about taking up my lifestyle ever.
Yeah, I was desperate. I was desperate enough. And sometimes that's what it takes is for somebody to get desperate enough. And it's a shame when I see, like, man, I've got a dear friend of mine that's dying. Actually, I got a couple of dear friends of mine that are dying. But you can't you can't talk them into anything, like the one, and I've mentioned this person before. When I explained to them what carnivore could do for them, but changing their lifestyle, if they just ate whole foods again, what it could do for them and for their health and alleviate everything that's going on in their bodies. And she says, well, I just couldn't give up hamburgers.
Just give up the bun.
How can you be so miserable and say that you're not willing to change? I don't understand that. It doesn't
make your own bun.
For some, Jeff, it's an enormous gulf that they can't cross over. It's very difficult. I mean, kudos to us that we were able to see through the nonsense and say, you know what, we got to do something. We have to, because if not, we're not going to be there for our families. We're not going to rewire our minds. Because I see it every day, and people are just limping, grabbing their backs, and I'm like, you want to change their mind, but you can't. You have no power just to live it out. Live it out.
It just breaks my heart.
It does.
Breaks my heart.
All of us. Yeah. You're right. Gentlemen, I got to get going.
In our lives, right?
What's that?
Dan, I was going to say, we've all got those people in our lives that we just wish we could impact in a positive way, and we just don't have whether we don't have the right things to say at the right times, or they're just not ready to hear it yet.
Yes, exactly. Oh, Kelly's in the house. I was about to log off because I got to go do something. Kelly, I wish I could stay longer.
I was watching, and then I'm like, all right, Rick is finally here. Dustin's here. I watched for a while, and then I'm like, okay, I got to join the party for a little bit.
Welcome.
Guys, have a good night. I got to get going. Got to do some daddy
Yeah, it's good
duty.
to see you, buddy.
All right.
All right, guys.
Good night, Dan.
Keep it up,
Thanks for
man.
joining.
Later, everybody. Bye.
Later.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think I would have. I don't know if I would have bought it. I think it took my health getting to a point where I was like, okay, I need to do something to change my life course. You know, I need some sort of intervention, and the only intervention is going to be me. You know, here I got to do something. I got to do something, or I'm going to be dead before too
I
long.
wish I would have known that this was a healthy diet, but I didn't know that for decades. I thought I was ready for the grave. I thought I was circling the drain.
Right.
People just don't understand it. Everyone's, oh, I did this and I cured that and I feel better and this and that. What about you, Rick? I thought I would be dead by now. My doctor told me I'd have heart disease by my 50s, and I'm still here. Out of everybody, I'm the only one that has it. I mean, yeah, they can laugh at me. Well, you know, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't mate, but I don't have back problems. I don't have heart problems. I don't run out of energy. My eyesight is the same as when I was a 20-year-old. I mean, you go down the list. It's like, is this weird? Am I the only one that's like this?
No, you're what we all should be. You are a testament of the earlier you start, the better you are.
Part of my
Maybe so.
part of my problem too is like just the way I mean, as a kid, I grew up TV dinners, fruit roll-ups, granola bars, junk food in the school lunches and whatever, pizza parties, drinking when I got into my 20s. I did Atkins for a while, so I had kind of learned a little something, but then I don't know, like if you went back then, if it went back to when I was like 30 or even 25, so I just kind of grew up with this, I still believed vegetarian was the ideal. I was religious and I thought I could back that up scripturally, like, oh, we're supposed to be vegetarians.
What about animal sacrifice?
And, well, I know that came later, but, you go back to the beginning and it was like, okay, so I've given you all the green vegetation of the earth.
What was the first thing that Noah did when he got ready to get off the ark?
Well, yes, Noah made a sacrifice. That's true.
Yeah.
Right. Abel made a sacrifice even long before Noah.
Yep. And Cain offered God vegetables, and look at what that happened.
Right, but we have the direct statement saying, I've given you all green vegetation to serve as food for you.
Yeah, before the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, we were vegetarian.
And so
they had a tree of life, which we no longer have.
Yes,
that implies we were vegetarian.
That might have been a steak tree. You never know.
And there's no direct commentary about eating meat until after the flood, when it was said you can eat meat, but you need to bleed it. So basically, that was brought up because blood was then going to be used as a symbolic purpose later down the road.
Well, it's the only humane way to kill an animal.
People were still eating meat prior to then, though. So, but I mean, all I'm saying is like this was my thinking because this was what I was taught. So if you came at me then, in my younger days when this was my thinking and tried to tell me that the carnivore diet is the proper human diet, carnivore diet is a form of a proper human diet, then I would have been like, no, because to me it didn't scripturally make sense. So I had to get ulcerative colitis. I had to get, issues with my bleeding gums. I had to get the brain fog. My health had to get to a certain low ebb before.
That's another thing.
Before I looked into it. So.
I'm glad you reminded me about dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has been 40 years without going to a dentist?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have bleeding gums. I don't have hemorrhoids. You go down the list. It's like Rick doesn't have any of that. The only thing I got is a genetic sinus condition. And even that's not really a nuisance. It bothers me once in a while, but it doesn't bother me when I work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they wanted to cut part of my head out. They wanted to pull my teeth out and put braces and all that. I'm like, no. Leave me alone.
Right. So yeah, so it took hitting rock bottom health wise to kind of get me to open my mind to this stuff. So, and I thought keto was the answer. Like keto made sense, you know. And I even thought like, you know, it wasn't here. It was in Kiltz's group earlier. Eat biblically. Someone in Kiltz's group asked the question, or someone had a client ask them, shouldn't I be able to eat like Jesus? Okay, and then that was part of our discussion during Kiltz's meeting earlier today. And so I participated in that discussion, and my answer was, well, yes, you should, but what's your metabolic health? You know, so Jesus was metabolically healthy, and so were probably the majority of Israelites 2,000 years ago. It's not the case with you today. You know, if you got diabetes, if you're overweight, if you're riddled with arthritis, you've been eating processed food all your life, you're not metabolically healthy, you got insulin resistance, then no, right now you can't eat like Jesus ate. We recommend a strict carnivore elimination diet. And let's get the weight off. Let's get you back to a state of being metabolic healthy. And then maybe if you want to eat like Jesus, you could probably eat like Jesus then. But for right now, no, you can't because you're not metabolically healthy. That was my answer to that.
Who wants to eat bread anyway? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bread is for prisoners.
So, and then another comment I made on bread was like, you know, a slice of bread, if you're metabolic healthy, and it's quality bread, you know, not like United States bread, you know, isn't going to kill you. And remember, we had Desiree's grandma on a couple of weeks ago, and she's like 99. And what did she say? She had half a slice of toast every day for breakfast, like it was a ritual. She's doing fine, you know, but when she talked about the rest of the things that she ate, you know, they weren't carnivore, but they also weren't bad. We didn't hear her eating donuts and Doritos, or, you know, she was eating like her grandma used to eat. And that's what we've often heard that cliche saying too. Like if you just ate like your grandparents ate 100 years ago, you probably wouldn't be as sick as you are. You wouldn't be doing too bad, you know? And so, but why can't someone today eat like Jesus ate? Well, it's because you're a metabolic wreck. You know,
I mean, realistically, if you're eating on the PhD spectrum, I mean, if you look at the whole food aspect of the PhD spectrum, wouldn't that be biblically? Because they didn't eat processed foods. Bread is not necessarily a processed food in the context of what we look at processed foods today.
Yes, by and large, pretty much so. Yes, the PhD spectrum being single ingredient whole foods. You know, bread is basically yeast, wheat, flour, and water. And you know, biblical bread would go bad the next day. It wasn't rife full of chemicals.
It was unleavened bread.
Kept it shelf-stable for 4 weeks. You know.
Well, also back then, wheat was stone ground. Whereas about the mid 1880s, when Pillsbury and Gold Medal formed the very first mill where they separated the starch and they had refined flour. So, you know, before that, it was stone ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you had the bran, you had the germ, you had the vitamins and stuff that came in that's still in the bread. Whereas today's bread, all that's been extracted to make other products, and you're just left with the plain white flour that's got zero nutritional value and turns to sugar the minute it hits your tongue. So
you know that
the world is different between the two breads.
Limestone breaks down the phytic acid that's found in the wheat seeds. So that's another thing that they don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll also add the wheat we have today ain't nothing like the wheat they had back then.
Nope.
Oh.
You know, I would right now, if there was any way I could eat bread from biblical times, I would eat some just to try it, you know, out of curiosity, because see how much different it is than what we have now. My sister-in-law, my oldest sister-in-law, for a while there, she was making her own bread and she was grinding her own wheat and utilizing every bit of it. And she was buying the wheat online. She wasn't it's the only way she could get the purest form of wheat she could get. She was trying to be as close to biblical bread as she could get. And it was then and still the best bread I've ever had in my life. One slice, you could take one slice, and these weren't big loaves. You could take one slice, toast that up, put some real butter on that, and it was like eating a meal all by itself. It was just so good. But it was absolutely nothing like what you get in the store, and nothing like what you can buy today. Just fantastic. So I would love to try what they had back then, because it isn't what we have today.
I mean, we got to also remember a lot of the things that we have today is also thousands of years of selective breeding with cattle, fruits, vegetables, and all that stuff.
Well, the wheat has been genetically modified to be pest resistant, to be drought resistant. Then, of course, you've got it sprayed with glyphosates, so that it all comes up ripe at the same time, dried and ready to harvest. So it's nothing like what they had back in the day.
That's only back in the last 50 years.
Back in our great grandparents' day.
Well, what was it? Up until about maybe 100 years ago, the government actually used to collect the best seeds from different regions and give them away for free. For many years, they did that.
Really?
Now you can't even reuse seeds or whatever, depending on what kind of farm you have and all that stuff, and what your contract is with whatever these bio companies are. But
because of proprietary.
In the 1930s, they started letting them patent seeds, and that's where the whole thing started.
Yeah, it started right there at the University of Missouri with Monsanto.
There you go.
But now what it is, farming is all about yield now. That's the problem. And then they got the bankers involved with finance. So they turned farming into basically an economic scam. And that's why
realistically, it started off genuine. It started off, how do we make enough food to feed everybody? And then the profits come in, and that becomes a problem. But all this, all across history, we've been trying, how do we famine proof ourselves? How do we ensure we have enough food for ourselves? Because realistically, if we didn't have that ability, we didn't start to figure out how to not starve to death, we as humans wouldn't be here.
Yep. Yeah, and it all started with the Industrial Revolution when everybody moved to the cities and off the farms. They had this massive problem. They had to figure out how to feed all these people.
Mm-hmm.
And back then we didn't have the refrigeration that we have now either. So, meats were pretty much off the table, because there was no, other than, a preserved type meat. My gosh, that's why A1 and ketchup and all these other sauces was invented, was to cover up the taste of the rancid meat. What little meat they did eat back then.
A lot of it was salt preserved.
It's funny. I've always heard, you see it in the movies, older movies and whatnot. And of course, we've seen it in our own lives, where people you take a setting where you've got, excuse me, got a frog in my throat. You take a setting, let's say an army setting. Everybody goes to basic training, and you got all these guys from the city. They're weak, they're skinny. And then you got these country boys come in. They're big, they're strong, What's the difference between the two? The difference was what they ate and what they did, day in and day out. And I saw that, in my own military career, but you always saw it in the movies too. You'd always have the big country boy, and then you had the skinny city kid. Well, the Industrial Revolution, everybody moving to the city. In reality, you had these people eating inferior food because that's what it took to feed a whole city, versus the country kids that were still eating natural whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see here. Sherilyn mentioned smoked meat as a way of preserving it. I was watching a survival show, and that's what they did. They smoked the meat and then hung it up in trees so other critters wouldn't get it. Rodney says, Jeff, the wheat used in biblical days is something like U-corn. It's Einkorn. EINKORON.
Yep.
That Jordan Rubin promotes. The gluten is different. So yeah, so there's things were a lot different then, a lot better. And I mean, if I think, if the PhD spectrum is staying under 100 grams of carbs of single ingredient whole foods, you could probably get away with it too. So, all right. Aaron, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Glenn Martinez. That's a new name on here, by the way. Posted this comment an hour and 20 minutes ago. So he's probably gone, but hopefully he catches it on the replay. 2 years, 9 months, 98% carnivore. Initial 60 pounds down. Awesome. Need to lose 40 more, but nothing for 1 year and a half. Tried fasting, will lose a few pounds, but when I eat, it comes back. What can I do? So I would say intermittent fast. That's what's working for me is intermittent fasting. I was the same way. I lost my first 60 in 6 months, and then nothing for over 2 years. So, and then I had to shake it up. And so shaking it up was intermittent fasting. So my intermittent fasting is usually 2 meals a day. Sometimes that's just 1 meal a day. So sometimes, because I won't eat within a couple hours before bed. So if I come home late, I don't have time to do dinner. There's been some Mondays where I got home late and I'm like, well, I don't have time to eat. And I got to get my thumbnail. I got to get StreamYard set up. I got to advertise this. And I just don't have dinner. And when I'm done, it's like 11:30. I'm not going to eat. So I go to bed, Those are the things that were for me. And then, of course, there's a million other things we could ask you about your macros and all that other stuff. But I would say, if you fast and then it comes back when you eat, how much are you eating? So, do you go from fasting to all of a sudden you're back to 3 meals a day? Do you fast just for 1 day or 2?
I mean, realistically, fasting is going to help you with the water weight. And then when you start eating and drinking, you're going to put that water weight back on. Because initially, if you think about the way fasting looks at, Finney looks at fasting as far as Finney has a way of looking at Dr. Finney, for those who may not be aware, but you lose about a 1/4 pound max of fat on a fasted day. You're not going to go through that much fat in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, realistically, people look at, I fasted, I lost 4 pounds, and then I ate then I went back to eating, and then I've gained back 4 pounds. Well, it's not quite like you didn't lose 4 pounds of fat. You're losing water weight, and then there's probably a little bit of autophagy in there, but I mean, realistically, fasting is more for a health benefit, not so much for a weight loss benefit.
This is
and
true.
I think we look at the scale, and I think and it derails us so often.
Yeah, I weigh myself every day, but I don't obsess over it. My wife thinks I obsess over it because I weigh myself every day, but I don't obsess over it. So I was glad to see 164. My ultimate goal now is to get into the upper 150s. So 158, 159, 157. And I could actually probably stop right there and be very happy. And, but I'm not racing to get there. So I doubt I'll get there. I might not even get there by the end of September. That's still another month away, but I will get there eventually. So I just don't make it a race. So yeah, that's the other thing. So this kind of goes in line with what Dustin was saying too about the water weight. A lot of people, they start a diet and they get big results right out of the gate. Like when I started keto or carnivore, it's like, the first week I lost 10 pounds. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. And then all of a sudden the next week you lose 2 pounds, and the next week you lose 1 pound. And then the next week you don't lose any pounds. And then you're like, what happened? And that's because a lot of that was water weight at the beginning. It actually wasn't fat. So fat comes off slow. Water weight comes off fast. So maybe you could, well, you're saying 2 years, 9 months. So that's probably not what you're experiencing there. So
no, the only real measurement is your body measurement. That scale doesn't mean much.
And you know, that's true too, because while I've stalled out for over 2 years, I did still lose a notch in my belt and went down a pant size.
There you go.
We must do the obligatory Hello Kitty.
The
Hello,
evil Kitty. Mr. Milton.
Mr.
Hello Kitty.
The Darth Vader of the carnivore world.
All right. DS111 says carnivore channels like this one are so interesting to me because carnivore is my physical advantage. Very nice.
You're a nice kitty.
Bill Cook, your body regulates what is happening as long as you feed it right. You can still be in ketosis eating chicken breast if you have a little extra body weight. That is true. So I've just noticed that like if I eat like one chicken breast with some fat, like with some butter or something, I'm fine. If I pound down 3 chicken breasts with no fat, I'll gain weight the next day.
I can't even eat a chicken breast unless it's just drowning in butter.
Deep fried.
I can't stand chicken breast. It's got to be dark meat. Yeah.
Heart attack style.
That's right.
Yeah. My wife will buy them chicken breast, or she'll like buy a whole chicken, roasted. And she takes the breast and she'll make it like a chicken salad out of it or something, and I tell her, I says, save the skin for me. That's the best part of the chicken is the skin. Fried up nice and crisp in tallow or lard, you bet. Heart attack chicken.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way to
the
go.
Best. You heard me crunching on it.
Yep.
The only way I'll anymore eat chicken breast is either I'm grinding it up and making the pacemaker pizza crust, or I am tenderizing it. I'm doing egg bars with pork panko and frying it that way.
That's a good way, yeah.
Other than that, I can't do chicken breast. It's too dry. You used to like this, like it. Now I hate it.
My dad used to use the George Foreman grill to make chicken breast. I hated that thing. It's terrible. I said it wasn't even good enough for a duck.
Well, what was the whole point of the George Foreman grill was to render the fat off of the food, which we all know now was just absolutely absurd. But that was the thing back then.
Yep.
No fat.
My parents would get mad because I break out the cast iron pan, load it up with lard, and put the chicken in there and fry it up. This thick grease dripping all over the place.
Such a rebel.
I don't understand how he doesn't gain any weight.
Teenager.
There's something wrong with my son. He eats all those high-fat foods, and he's skinny as a rail. Like, I don't know. You just wait till you turn 40. Okay, I'm waiting.
Yeah, you're 50, but still waiting.
That's right. I'll be 60 in a couple of years. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, I had the George Foreman grill because thought that was they were telling you the truth then too. Render the fat out. So
Jonathan's right. Tastes like charred plastic. He's got that right. It's disgusting.
I bought the George Foreman grill one time because I thought maybe this is convenience, and I had it one time, and I'm like, this thing's a joke.
My brother bought me one of those little like table, like the countertop grill that you press down. I used it till it fell apart. It was, for me, I would cook so many burgers on that thing. I wasn't too worried about it. I would, the grease would pour into like a bowl, and then I would just put the meat right back in the bowl.
Yeah, we had one given to us, and I think we used it once or twice, and just thought it was more trouble than it was worth. See, my thing is when I'm cooking meat and I'm cooking burgers and stuff like that. I'll do some in an air fryer now, but really, I've always been, and my wife is the same way. We like cooking over an open fire. We like cavemaning it. I've got a pit. I've got my smoker. I've got my pit, and we like firing up a wood fire. I don't like using charcoal. I want wood. I want that smoke on it. So that's how we cook a lot of our meats.
I use a wood fire, but I still cook in a pot or pan. I don't
I
like
will
the fire.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It all depends on the circumstances at the time.
I love doing heart attack chicken out on a fire. Everybody freaks out when they see it. They think it's going to turn into a fireball. I haven't burned it up yet.
Have you might seen the guy, like the creator now, is like farming in beige or something like that. He's like a chicken farmer. And he's like, he has these short form content. He's like, what is it now? And, he's like got that very, he sounds kind of like Grok or Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. But anyway, he has these videos where this lady comes out and she's got this huge, big, like this big wok with oil like this deep. And she just takes big trays of chicken thighs and just throws it. And then like the fireball comes off of it because the oil spills into the fire. And yeah, it's terrifying.
I got a cast iron pot I use.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do when it comes that hot oil is toss water into it.
I just put a lid on if it catches fire.
But she does it outside, so it's not so bad. She's cooking outside.
George Foreman probably made more money selling those grills than from boxing.
When I fry inside, I use a stainless steel pot. When I fry outside, I use a cast iron Dutch oven.
I don't fry anything usually. I mean, we got a fryer, like we could buy wings and deep fry them, but we very rarely get it out. So I cook either on the black stone outside or on a cast iron inside, or I do have stainless steel now. And
I deep fry at least one meal a day, every day. I don't think I go a single day without frying. My breakfast is fried. My lunch is usually fried. Sometimes dinner's fried. I fry a lot. And they say, oh, what about heartburn? I've never had heartburn. The only time I got heartburn is when I eat vegetables. But I fry whatever, no heartburn.
What do you use? What do you fry in?
Beef tallow or lard.
Yeah. How often do you change it?
It depends. I use it until it starts to get soft, and then I turn it into soap.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned heartburn. So, a few weeks ago, we went up to Colorado and went on vacation. And when I was packing to get ready for the trip, I grabbed my shaving kit out from underneath the bathroom sink, and I spotted a large bottle of Tums. And I looked at those, and they had expired 3 years ago. Meaning I hadn't touched them things since I became a carnivore. I haven't had any heartburn at all in over 3 years now.
Isn't that amazing?
I hadn't even realized it until I saw that bottle and said, I don't even need these anymore. I tossed them.
Problem for us,
taking up space.
Problem for us is like my wife and I will get indigestion and heartburn from overcooked pork and overcooked beef, like crock pot beef or crock pot pork or like pork loin. I don't know what it is. Gives us heartburn.
Milton.
Yeah, it doesn't. That doesn't happen. I've totally gone. No more acid reflux. Nothing.
All right. Carnivore Muscle Pro says he gets heartburn if he doesn't have dairy. That's interesting.
I usually get heartburn when I have dairy. It just shows how different we are, man.
Right. Yeah.
No doubt.
It's interesting. When I don't eat dairy, my energy level starts to drop. I like having my daily yogurt and cheese.
Do you make your own yogurt?
Of course.
Figured you did. I'll tell you what, that homemade yogurt is absolutely the best.
And the other thing too, my non-carnivore food is sauerkraut. I had it. In fact, the last time I was eating on camera, I was eating my pork with sauerkraut. Sometimes I have it with my chicken. I haven't been eating any beef because it's too expensive. So now I've gone to the meat and sauerkraut.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to jump out of here. I got some things to do before we get ready to go to bed and all that. You guys have a great night. It was great talking with all you guys, Rick and Kelly and Jeff and Rob,
Dustin.
Bob.
You too, Dustin.
Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Have a good night. Papa Carnivore mentioned the last time I had an ice cream cone, it tasted so sweet. I took a few licks and threw the rest out. It was way too sweet. That's how I feel on my when I said on my anniversary. I'll usually have the dessert. Under the last one we went to, they brought out some sort of brownie and a scoop of ice cream, and the ice cream was tolerable, but I had a bite of the brownie, and I actually I've never really been a chocolate person ever, but I had a bite of it, and I'm like, oh my God, it was so rich, like mind-boggling rich, beyond like anything I have eaten in 3 years. So same thing. We just kind of Crystal took a few bites, and she was so full and it was so rich that she couldn't finish it. So I do understand that. Jason is a data analyst by trade, so he loves me some data, and I'm a tracking whore, LOL. So he loves the scale, the ketone meter, all those things. Yep. I like data too. So, all right. Papa Carnivore says, when people eat lots of carbs and duck food, it makes them feel like they have low or zero energy and motivation. I was like that before carnivore. Now I have tons of energy and motivation. I agree with this. When I was a duck food consumer, I can remember working till like, I'd work, go to lunch, come back from lunch, work for like another hour, and then I'd be like, you know what, I'm just done. I just leave. I just didn't lack the motivation. I do more work now. I wake up, sausage and eggs, or bacon and eggs, go to work all day. Not an issue. But before, when it was like, duck food and fast food at lunchtime or something, I'd get back to the job site and I'm just like, yeah, I just ate lunch. And I'd be like, man, I've just lost all motivation. So I understand exactly what you're feeling there in construction. And speaking of construction, DS111 says, I might be the oldest guy on our construction jobs, but I move the best and do not need breaks for food or the number 2 toilet. Right. Yeah.
I can tell you one thing. When I used to eat the standard diet, especially for breakfast, I'd go either the men's group, they have a buffet, or I'd go to a buffet somewhere like Golden Corral. I would eat the meat and stuff first, but then I want to have biscuits and gravy. I'll eat that. Next thing I know, I'm home. I'm crashed half the day. Like, where did the day go? Now it's like, if I eat in the morning, I eat something like meat or eggs, and then I'm good for all day, no matter what. I never fall asleep, and if I do cat nap, it's 10 minutes. That's it. I'm wide awake.
Yeah, there's a world of difference. So between the duck food and real food. So that you've coined the term duck food, it's definitely it's picked up.
Well, we know where that came from.
Right. Bill said Bob wants to get into healthcare, and I do. I actually mentioned this in our keto coaches chat. Like, I'm a tile setter by trade, so I work in construction, and I am all day long dirty. I'm covered in cement, and they're dirty clothes. And my hands have it on it. I'm surprised they don't have it on it right now. And then, but every time I go to a hospital, I just love it. I unlike some people hate hospitals. Every time I'm in a hospital, I just love the environment. I'm always like, I wish I had a job here. I'd love to be a doctor. I'd love to be a nurse, or for some reason, just to be there in that clean environment, taking care of business, on that kind of like medical level.
I hate hospitals.
It really interests me. But I'm 50.
Ugly.
I'm 50, so I'm not gonna go, pound out 4 years of school and get a job in a hospital for 8 to 10 more years and then retire. I'm just not.
There have been people that have done it in their 60s.
Yeah.
Went on and became doctors.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to, but I don't know. I'm probably set in my ways.
It's in my opinion, you got to be a special kind of person to want to be in that field. I tried it for a couple of years, training in it, and I just discovered it wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me.
Hospitals are ugly now.
I'm a builder. I'm a creator. I'm a mechanic. That's just what I am. You know, I like working with my hands. I like building with my hands. I like creating with my hands. I don't like mundane jobs. And really, there was just something about having to deal with the people I had to deal with in a hospital that I just didn't care for. You know, it takes a different temperament than what I have. So
I just hate the way hospitals look. They're horrible. Some of the ugliest places I've ever been in.
You know, I remember when my dad was disappointed in me, you know, because I said, I'm going a different route. You know, when I became a mechanic, you know, he kind of down on me because he wanted me to have a white collar job, wanted me to be, you know, better than him. And I said, Dad, you got to understand, somebody's got to build those bridges that you drive over, you know, to get to work. Somebody's got to do that. And I like doing that kind of stuff. Now I didn't build bridges, but you know what I'm saying. Somebody has to build what we use. And that's what I like doing. I like creating and building stuff. So
the other thing too is indoor work. White collar is the easiest to replace with artificial intelligence. But it's very difficult to replace the farmer or the construction worker or people that work outside.
Yeah, I like to see AI come and fix a water leak or electrical issue in a building, because there's no way that AI will fry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had somebody. Of course, I was an aircraft mechanic for 41 years, but I had somebody tell me one day that someday, you know, robots will replace you, and I said, no, they won't. I said, no robot can install hydraulic lines in an aircraft. No robot can string, you know, 5 miles of electrical wiring and components in an aircraft. It's not going to happen. The only way anything like that happens where I can be replaced is they're going to have to completely redesign how airplanes are put together. It requires a whole new technology, and they are long ways from that. Now, they are going to replace the pilot that flies them. That's already happening. But they're not going to replace the man that has to work on that airplane.
There's simply too many variables.
Exactly.
And when everything's run by software, you have a choice. You can do it the right way or the wrong way. A human being, they can make a decision. The computer, hey, you never know. The decision they make may be good or it may be bad. You won't find out until things start falling apart.
No, and you know, and like a computer's garbage in, garbage out, as you well know. You know, and okay, well, so you call one of these. You've got an issue with something, you know, whether it's your satellite, your a bill, whatever, and you call in thinking you're going to get the department you need to talk to, and you get overseas. You know, they subcontract all this stuff out overseas, and you're telling the people what your issue is, and you can hear them clicking on the computer keyboard, and they're just putting in what you're saying into the computer. They have no idea what you're talking about. They can't comprehend English. They can speak it. They can understand what you're saying well enough to type it into the computer, but they can't comprehend it. Well, the computer can only give them these pat answers. They can't give them a thoughtful answer. They can't understand. The computer can't understand what you're talking about. And invariably, I always have to tell them, get me an American. And it might take me a half hour, but I just keep telling them, shut up and get me an American. You don't comprehend. Oh, no, I speak very good English. No, you don't. Shut up and get me an American. And eventually I get an American, and within seconds, the American can answer my question every single time because they can comprehend what I'm saying.
The interesting thing is that when it comes to some of these foreign, I guess you call call centers, I've actually called companies and I've gotten into the computer controlled AI system, and they were much easier to work with than trying to deal with the foreigner and then trying to interface with a computer. The problem is when you just let the system do something automatically, yeah, it works great in a controlled environment, but as soon as it hits the real world, that's when the disasters start happening. Next thing you know, they give you instructions that are just totally crazy, And you know how it is, even with AI animation, there's always something that doesn't make sense. I saw one where they were trying to put parts together, and it was almost like the parts just kind of went on top of each other. Some kind of wrong calculation in their vectors. I don't know what they were doing, but it was totally crazy.
Rodney asks, I've heard to get into ketosis, it takes less than 50, 25, 10, 5 grams of carbs. Who's right? Well, that's going to depend on you. So some people can get into ketosis on 50 carbs a day. A lot of people can't. A lot of people got to cut it down to 20. 20 is what I've heard is the kind of like net average. Dr. Atkins, the induction phase was to stay under 20 grams of carbs. Most keto diets will say stay under 20 grams of carbs. When you get it down to 10, you're more ketovore. And then, of course, if you go zero carb, then there's actually no such thing as zero carb. But if you go as zero carb as possible carnivore, you should be able to get into ketosis just fine. So
I never did.
So it kind of depends. And it depends, what are you eating? So like, if you want to complicate matters even more, you get into the whole net carbs versus carbs thing. So like, certain fibers don't count because you can't digest fiber and whatnot. So basically, try and eat as low carb as possible and try and eat as many single ingredient whole foods preferred over processed big food company foods as possible, and you'll fare well. Aaron, I have friends who are afraid to change diets. I try and tell them just eat real food to start. I could care less if it's veggies, fruits, or meat. All those are better than the cereals and sugars. I 100% agree with you, Aaron. It's absolutely. To get started, shop the perimeter of the grocery store. Eat only what would be natural. Don't eat anything that comes in a wrapper or a box, generally speaking. So I 100% agree. Carnivore Muscle Pro says, I'm sub 5% body fat. Wow. My Dr. Boz ratio and ketone readings are bad. We need to stop putting money into the affiliate link scammer influencers. So I don't know what a Dr. Boz ratio is, but I do agree with you about, affiliate links and scammer influencers,
Well, that was asked about, I believe last week. It was one of the things that brought up this, you asked me earlier before we started, what brought this idea up. And that was one of them, as they were talking about, who was it? Jerry was talking about the Dr. Boz ketone ratio thing. And we didn't know anything about it, and I still don't know anything about it. I haven't looked into it. Don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not something I'm going to worry about. Just listen to my body. It tells me everything I need to know. Yeah, and like I said, with what I talked about, those with ketones and all that. Yeah, there you go, Rick. When I talked about those ketones and all that, none of it is reliable. It doesn't tell you what your body's actually doing.
Yep. The few times I've been tested, they always come up low, and I don't eat carbohydrates other than what I get from my carnivore foods.
And what that would tell me, from what I've learned, is that your body is utilizing the ketones, because all it's measuring, all those monitors can do is measure what's in your bloodstream that is idle. It's there in storage mode. When your ketones are low, it's an indication that your ketones are actually being utilized in your body. So measuring them doesn't tell the whole story.
So Carnivore Muscle Pro says it's literally the topic of this whole discussion panel and the title of this video I'm watching now, LOL. I'm just saying that Dr. Boz ratio, I don't watch a lot of Dr. Boz, so I don't know what the Dr. Boz ratio is. It's Annette Bosworth, right? That's what we're talking about, the sardine girl. She promotes a keto diet and loves sardines. That's about all I know of Dr. Boz. So, yep.
Yeah, I've got one of those Keto Mojos. I didn't pay for it. I used my HSA account. I tried that. I said, forget it. I'm not messing with this. Just too much work. I'm like Jeff. I'm going to listen to my body. It never, and like I say, the top ketones I got on there was 0.8. And that's doing an OMID, late OMID. And still.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the take home message, and actually has a lot to do with this topic, as opposed to, things that are signs that you are thriving that have absolutely nothing to do with a keto meter would be obviously steady energy without crashes, appetite regulation, reduced food noise, improved mental clarity and mood stability, better recovery and strength, stable or improved labs, when you do go and do your blood work, good sleep and digestion, and probably just the overall feeling of happiness. Like who of us that's listening right now has been on a carnivore diet and is just like, this makes me sad. It's not sustainable. None of us feel that way, and we hear that sometimes from some critics, but we live it and we enjoy it. We feel great, and we adopt this as our lifestyle. And so if you're checking all those criteria, you're on the right track, and you don't really need a ketone meter. So I said, they're kind of cool. Data's cool. They can be motivational, but is it worth running out and buying one per se? No, not necessarily.
Well, like we've said in the past, for those that like to chase numbers or having fun with it, they like the information. That's fine. To each their own. But are they necessary? No. They're like carbs. They're not necessary.
If you're anything like Rick, you're healthy. All right.
Not according to the vegans.
Yeah.
Well, none of us here can argue with that.
Carnivore Cutler says he's weighing daily just to keep a chart along with my sleep score as part of my 90-day coffee free N equals 1. So
there you go.
How's that going for you? I haven't had a drop of coffee since 2019. I encourage anybody who wants to talk about it to get off coffee. But of course, I know that coffee is also a sacred, holy subject. And so at the risk of offending some people, I don't talk to them about quitting coffee. You do you.
Isn't coffee coffee is the sacred cow of the carnivore world. That's the one thing people are not willing to give up.
Right. Yep. I'm a carnivore plus this pot of boiled seeds I drink every morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it up permanently this time. I went 3 weeks and I felt great. That's my carniversary date. I said I have a cup and another cup. And I noticed in this morning, like when I took my blood pressure, the higher number was 129. I had a pulse of 66 and a 61 for the low number. I'm like, they say, oh, coffee, it wears off. Caffeine wears off. Baloney. It does not. I can feel, 3 o'clock this afternoon, I can feel my heart pounding. I'm like, I'm done with this stuff. I've already ran out of it. I bought another bag, but I'm going to use it as a prop, but I'm done with it. I have no problems getting off the coffee. I have no problems like, oh, I need it. I feel like I have more energy without the coffee than it is. It's just a stimulant. And then sadly is coffee for 8 ounces. My mug is probably 12 ounces because I do 2 of those, and it's technically I have 3 cups. 95 to 100 milligrams of caffeine just in 8 ounces of coffee. 1 cup, 8 ounces. So I had probably almost 300 milligrams of caffeine. Sadly is Mountain Dew has the high, regular soda has the highest caffeine amount versus cola. It's only got 54 grams of caffeine in it versus 8 ounces of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it don't bother me to miss it. I can, if I really don't miss the coffee, I miss the hotness. I could boil me up some water and have hot, salty water, and it'll satisfy my needs.
I have a
No
friend who
problem.
does that. He's got Crohn's, and he doesn't drink coffee and tea because it irritates his Crohn's. But he drinks it every morning. He wakes up, boils water, and has hot water with his breakfast.
Yeah, like I can go to McDonald's and get the large unsweet tea, and I don't have that effect. But when I drink coffee, I have that effect.
I don't like anything hot.
Carnivore Cutler. As a carnivore, you could spend 6 years to become a doctor and then work at it for 20 years and then retire and sail around the world. So don't be talking me into this now. He also says, today is my 3-year carniversary.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Awesome, Cranky Carnivore Cutler. Congratulations. That's you're a 2023 carnivore child like Geezy and I, and actually a lot of people that get on here say they started in 23.
Yeah, there's someone that I'm getting to really know in my area. She lives in just about like an hour from me. She's 3-year carnivore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Awesome. So go celebrate like Uncle Charlie and have some fudge and some ice cream.
And Snickers coffee creamer.
Fudge packer.
And of course, we're just picking on him. So he probably said that out of jest anyway earlier. Sometimes I don't think you can take Uncle Charlie seriously. All right. Bill says Mountain Dew and Code Red and Dr. Pepper were occasionally my sweet drinks. I'd been doing diet drinks since 7th grade, but I was hooked on Diet Coke, then Diet Mountain Dew, and I'm not hooked on it anymore. So now I would substitute iced tea for a while, but now because of my kidney disease, like my phosphorus is through the roof, and I'm still trying to get my blood pressure down. So I got rid of the iced tea, and now I'm just drinking mostly plain water since I got my water jug, and then sometimes I have flavored water. I still have 1 cup of tea in the morning. I will occasionally have a Mountain Dew, but usually hate it when I do. It tastes like chemicals now because I've been so off of it for so long.
This is what I have every morning. This large glass of ice water. First thing in the morning, I like it. But like now, when I replace the coffee with hot, salty water, that'll satisfy my hot. Because that's one thing when I first tried this coffee. This was my early days on carnivore. I said, I'm going to get off the caffeine, try it for 30 days. I'm like, I miss something hot. And I don't miss the coffee. I just miss something, having that hot cup of something. And someone mentioned about hot water, hot, salty water. And I gave it a try. It was good. And I did that this last one, or like bone broth. I did that. It was pretty good. So that's what I'm pretty much going to do, because I'm like, I don't like this feeling. And I noticed that I didn't change. I got down to 272 around my carnivore day, and I gained weight. The only difference I did is I had coffee. Some people say, and I don't fatten it up. It was plain and black. So something's different.
So I will say, since I've stopped drinking the Mountain Dew and the iced tea, and I'm mostly drinking water now, this actually coincides with my intermittent fasting and my weight loss. So maybe it's all tied together. All right. Let's see here. Dr. Bob. Celebrate with a cup of coffee and some Snickers on the side. Yeah. You like that Snickers coffee creamer? Yeah. Cutler says, my celebration will be a slice of Manchego cheese. I hope I pronounced that right. Sourced from sheep. All right. Very good.
Treat.
Nice.
I was at Walmart Saturday, and I walked by the coffee creamer, and I saw that Snickers coffee creamer. I said, hey, where's Uncle Charlie at?
All right. It's 10:24. I'm going to paste the link in the chat. This is your last chance to jump on board. Remember, we schedule ourselves till 10:30, 10 to drag our heels till 11. So if you want to jump on the screen, those are the links. We'd love to have you. But consider this last call. So, and speaking of last call, we are at the end of our comments here. Or Latro here says, getting me moving was either going to be a coffee or a defibrillator attached to my cheeks. The deeper sleep does help. So, here we go. A hot cup of bone broth with a pad of butter is a great coffee replacement.
Yeah, I've done that. That was pretty good.
When I quit drinking caffeinated beverages, because I still drank tea for a year after I quit drinking coffee. But when I quit drinking the tea, that's what I did was bone broth with a little butter and some MCT oil in it, blended up, into a froth. That was my hot drink in the morning, just because of that habit of drinking something hot in the morning. But eventually I quit that, and I don't miss it. I don't miss it a bit. I don't have any trouble getting up and getting going. Just don't need it.
All right, very nice. Question earlier, Kelly, was about when, and I know the answer to this, but the question was, when is your surgery? Uncle Charlie had asked.
It is Friday, August 28th. I have to be at the Columbia Orthopedic Surgical Center at 5:30 in the morning. They're going to roll me in at 7 a.m. so I can take the best nap while they roll me on my left side. That's how I sleep on my left side. So I'll say it'll be the best hour nap or whatever, how long it takes for me. And then as soon as I wake up, I'll be getting dressed, and they will be getting me up and walking. And if I'm up to it, I am walking out the door of that surgical center to get into the vehicle to go home.
Nice. I'm amazed that that's an outpatient surgery.
I've had the surgery, and I'm amazed it's an outpatient surgery now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like knee replacement. My mom had knee replacement. She had a double knee replacement in 2013. She was in the hospital for a few days, and now it's out. Knee replacements outpatient as well, unless you have your choice, or if you're high risk, you stay in the hospital. But I had a friend of mine, he's type 2 diabetic. He stayed in the hospital for a couple nights because he was diabetic, because he's high risk, and he could have went home the same day. But I was very amazed. I was expecting at least be one night in the hospital or 2 nights, but no, outpatient.
So I'm curious, what kind of joint are you getting put in? The reason why I ask is when I had mine done back in 2000, they had just come out with this new technology where they weren't boring down into the femur and putting the shaft down into the femur. They were basically, all they were doing was drilling a small hole into the femur, and the ball, the new hip joint, was just going to fit over the femur with that one little post going down into it, and then they put the ball on top of that, and then of course you've still got the socket portion of it, into the hip joint itself, into the pelvis. But see, for mine, they had to once they cut the ball socket off, they had to bore a hole, a cone-shaped hole down into my femur, and literally beat the shaft down into it. And then I couldn't put any weight on that for 8 weeks.
I believe they didn't tell me how it is, but I know they showed me the hip. It's kind of like that. It's small, so they cut the ball off, and I guess they must drill a hole, because whatever it is, the biggest thing they say, rest, but also at least get her moving around, to walk around as well. He said the best form of exercise is walking. So whatever they did, they have changed a lot.
Yeah, I bet you're doing the more non-invasive. That was a non-invasive surgery, and the only reason I didn't get it done is because nobody was doing it in Texas at the time. The only place you could get it done, it was new technology. The only place you could get it done back then was out in California. And my surgeon said, you'd have to, it would be a year before he'd be ready to do it, because he wasn't trained in it yet. But it was very non-invasive, easier recovery. And so the whole reason why I had to go 8 weeks before I could put any weight on the leg is because the bone has to grow to the prosthesis. Because prosthesis is porous and the bone has to grow and adhere to it. So that's why I couldn't put any weight on that leg for 8 weeks until that bone had healed and grown into that metal prosthesis. But it's a permanent part of me now.
Yeah. That's one thing is they have a physical therapy team. They come there, they get you up, they get you, I'm required to bring the walker because they're going to have me, make sure they'll walk up the steps and stuff before I go home. So, and then the answer to Aaron's question here, September 4th, I have my first physical therapy appointment.
And see, I didn't even have physical therapy. They gave me some instructions on what to do at home. Gave me a list of instructions, but I never went to any kind of physical therapy. Nobody came to the house. I just did it on my own. But I did it.
All right. Okay. So to close out our topic, just a few final comments here. So ketones are a useful tool and an interesting biomarker, but they're not the scorecard for success. And you do not need to live in a deep state of ketosis every minute of every hour of every day to get the benefits from carnivore. That's certainly not the case at all. And so then think of your own situation and ask yourself whether measuring is helping you or is it adding unnecessary stress. And if you find yourself stressing out over ketones, maybe don't test for a couple weeks and simply observe how you feel and function. And then maybe you can resume testing if you feel like it's necessary. So
yeah, and try to remember that ketone concentrations are not always synonymous with fat burning.
Right. And that's that. So anyway, that's 10:30. Comments have slowed down. I'm going to go ahead and close the show. Now we're going to talk backstage after the show is over. If you want to talk to us, but you were too afraid to show your face on a live stream, but you'd still like to talk to us face to face, you can still click that link that's in the chat, and I won't bring you on until after the show's over and we're all backstage. But in the meantime, I want to thank everyone who joined us this evening, who did come on screen. We had a good participation tonight. Let's see here. We had we had Jeff and Kelly and Rick, and then we had Keto Simple, and we had Dan from Lions Carnivore Podcast, and we had Aaron, and we had Kimberly, who was new and newer to the community too. So and really enjoying the carnivore diet so far. So previously on keto, now carnivore. So that's awesome. I don't think I missed anybody then. And of course, all of you who participate for 2.5 hours in the chat, that means a lot to us. You certainly keep the ball rolling, keep the subjects coming, keep the questions coming, and we feed off that, and we have a lot of good discussions, and that's all thanks to you. And so we thank you so much for participating in the chat. We're so glad to have you here, and we look forward to seeing you again next Monday. So until then, have a good night. We love you all. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, y'all.